right. Oh, good. I got this. Something went wrong. Please try again.
Well, it says we're live.
That's great.
How long are these podcasts?
20 minutes.
Yeah, 20. It's not bad. We'll be done by the time they get here.
We're just rolling with this. So.
Oh, we're live now.
Oh, I know. Like I said, we're rolling with
Technical difficulties.
Put the stream key in here. We'll get rolling. Week 1 of this is going super well.
It's going really well. We're doing great.
I have the camera shot.
Nope. Well, yeah, actually, your head is in the camera shot. Just the corner. So
I will probably need to adjust your mic.
That's fine. You calling me short?
yes.
23.
Yeah.
All right. We may just not stream to Instagram. We'll just do YouTube and Facebook.
That's fine. Go for it.
All right. Well, we're live.
Okay.
All right. Let's get the recording rolling.
Welcome to the City on a Hill Weekly Roundup podcast. I'm Pastor Stephen.
This is Pastor Matt.
We're trying something a little new today. You'll notice that we are actually in the same room. We are streaming a little different. We're not having relationship problems or anything. Can't be in the same shot. But we're just trying something new, trying to expand our horizons a little bit. Matt, how was your weekend?
My weekend was good. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what I did other than come to worship, which I was excited about. It's the first time I led worship in the new year.
Yeah.
In the new year. That was great. We did a new song, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't do the new song. They did it last week, and then we did it again.
You got to do a new song.
I got to do the new song, which is a lot of fun.
It's a new song, but it's an old song. It's all thing. There's nothing new under the sun, only endless repackaging, as Tozer once said. So, "Ancient of Days" is a very classic song. If you grew up in church in the '80s, especially, you probably heard that song, and it has a new spin on it. So, they did a great job. That's been a big hit. I've heard a lot of positive feedback about that song.
Yeah.
So,
I
great job.
remember something I actually got to do this fun that was not, related
Yeah.
to job and worship and stuff. We went on a date, which
Yeah.
for, people of our age with kids our age is a rare thing.
Yeah.
So we went to a coffee shop and we just read uninterrupted for 2 hours,
What a joy.
which was awesome. And then we had dinner with you guys.
We had a great time.
How did I forget that?
It was a wonderful time. I thought it was going to be the highlight of your weekend that we spent.
Maybe we are having relationship problems.
I don't know. I mean, I'm remembering things you're not. It's fine. I know it's great. The Haven is always such a great win. I love the burger. I had full intentions of going in and staying to the health plan and doing splitting the burger and eating half of it later, but it didn't happen. I'm sorry, it was way too good.
Nope.
It was way too good. So, really excited for the podcast today. A few announcements before we jump into our main topic today. Kind of a special guest on the podcast today. But a few things for our church family coming up. This Saturday, we have our men's breakfast. This is really a great time for us as we get together, our guys, and just spend time together, eat food, fellowship, get to know somebody new if you don't know them well, and just be an encouragement to one another. I think one of the biggest things we can do as men is just have time together, unscripted time, time to be non-productive, and just be an encouragement to each other. So really would encourage you to be there. The food's always great. It's going to be an awesome time. Coming up Sunday, if you're newer to the church, we'd love to get to know you a little bit better. So we have our next Sunday social, SUNDAE. And so we'll take you to JP Licks, buy you a scoop of ice cream, and you'll get the chance to ask questions and get to know some of our leaders. Coming up on the 2nd, February 2nd, we have our next baptism class. So if you're ready to take the next step in your walk with the Lord by getting baptized, we would love to help you do that. You don't have to commit to getting baptized after that class, but it just gives you all the information about what baptism is and why we do it. And then lastly, our next ladies' brunch and study is coming up on February the 8th. So this is the time for our women to get together to have incredible food and then study the Bible and some opportunities for some women in our church to teach. And so Amy, our our women's directors who do always just a great job organizing those. So we'd encourage you to be involved with any of those. In fact, if you are interested in any of those events, you can scan the QR code on the screen if you're with us, or click the link. If you're just listening on Spotify or Apple, you can go to coahforesthills.org/events.
Yep.
Well, each week we talk about, I don't think you have to talk much. Is there anything you would like to share? A song, hymn, spiritual song, anything before we bring our guests on?
There's something I want to save for the end of the podcast. So I'll
Okay.
sit back down once our special guest finishes his interview with you.
It's a spoken word.
It is.
It's a spoken word about his love for something.
The Haven Burger.
Cats. I don't know,
Yeah.
like something like that. So, I want to introduce our guest this morning. We're going to introduce Bland Mason. Bland is the pastor of City on the Hill Church in Brookline, and Bland planted this church many years ago, and really has begun what has become the City on the Hill network. And so we are the downstream beneficiaries of that. Bland, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here.
Good to have you here. Well, Bland, we would love to just have an opportunity for you to tell us about yourself. Obviously, I know you, but some of our listeners or even some of our church members may not know you really well. And what's one of the beautiful things about planting a new church that came out of City on the Hill Brookline is that the grand majority of our people were not connected to City on the Hill Brookline. And so I just love for them to get to know you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, background, all that.
Yeah, my name is Bland Mason. I'm originally from Southeast Virginia. Spent 14 years in the Louisville, Kentucky area doing some degrees and pastoring. And then in fall of 2008, packed up my family, moved up here in November, just in time for daylight savings time in winter, which was awesome.
Perfect time to move, right?
Absolutely. Most beautiful time of the year here.
Yeah.
And then launched City on the Hill Brookline in let's see now, September of 2010. So I've been going at it for just over 14 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you obviously have been an incredible pastor and planter, but what I'm inspired by is just how you love and lead your family. And so tell me a little bit about your family, your kids, now grandkids, which is super exciting.
Yes, I've got a daughter, Hannah, who's 27, and she is a wife and mom now. She is mom to Sophia, who's 2.5, and soon to be Isabel, my second granddaughter. So super excited about that and into February. And then my son-in-law, DJ. And it's a blast to have them at City on the Hill. Hannah's the kids director at City on the Hill Brookline, and DJ volunteers in various ways. So it's a lot of fun. I've been married to Teresa for 31 years in May. So congratulations to her on enduring that.
Best decision she ever made, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Well, tell us what inspired the name City on a Hill, and how does that reflect both the church and now the network?
Yeah, so when I was researching and thinking about cities where to go plant and invest my life, I came across Boston and started reading, and of course you read a Wikipedia article, and like everything else in Boston, it's way overdone because it's written by Bostonians. So I think printed out it's like 85 pages or something. But early on in it, they mentioned the famous message of City upon a Hill that John Winthrop, the founding governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, preached. And I clicked the link, and I remember just reading that. And of course, obviously they thought they were like the new Israel, but the vision itself was really of a church, of a community of people who really shared life together, bore each other's burdens, sacrificed for each other, celebrated each other's joys, and together they were a city on a hill. And between that and Matthew 5:14, it became just really, it was born in my heart to name the church City on a Hill.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what have been some of the unique challenges over the last 15 years, but also some of the opportunities that you've seen of church planning and ministry in Boston? Maybe that's different from Kentucky or other places that you ministered.
Yeah, so I think right off the bat it's just transient. So, we did a recent survey a few months ago, and half of our church has been there less than 2 years, and the other half is like 5 years or more. And so You just are constantly having to keep the front door open. You have to constantly be thinking a little more like a church plant all the time, because you don't have this continually ever-growing core group of people as you at most churches that are in stable communities can do. So over time, we've sent out way more people than are actually at our church. We've had more members than we have members. And some of them have gone to help plant churches around the city, but many of them also just moved around the world. Austin is a pass-through city for so many people. So that's one major challenge. And how do you develop leadership? How do you, how do you develop culture? How do you keep culture going? It's sort of like an ever revolving door of leadership. And so there's some unique challenges, but great opportunities as well, because it's hard to develop. There's always a pull towards institutionalism, but it's hard to become fully institutionalized if you're constantly sending people out and having new people show up. So allows for more, I think, for church to be a little more nimble and be able to pivot and make decisions a little more quickly.
Yeah, and it really makes you redefine the win, right? The win is not just how many people do we have on a Sunday, but then how many people have we sent out to the nations and to other neighborhoods and to around the country. And so,
exactly,
definitely changes that. So tell me the story of how City on a Hill shifted from being a church in Brookline to being a network of neighborhood churches across greater Boston.
Yeah, so we had planted several churches, and they were doing okay, but it became clear that one of the hardest things to do is go into a neighborhood with a brand new name and as a church and try to build some sense of notoriety in a good way, like letting people know about who you are. And there's so much suspicion here around churches that. A brand new church with a brand new name that no one's ever heard of. They're a little further behind in building goodwill in the community. And so it was Fletcher Lang, who's pastor of the City on Hill, Somerville, who was on staff with us. He was executive pastor, and it was around year 5 or so that he was there. We'd been talking about church planning some, and and we were dreaming about what was next for City on the Hill. We didn't want to just keep planting independent churches. We felt like there was an opportunity to plant a network of neighborhood churches that could share some of the best things together, but not be this like campus model where there's all this control and centralized elders make decisions for everybody, but really creating a model that allows for a great collaboration, but also very little control. So that was 2018. City on the Hill Somerville was launched. Then 2019, Aaron Peters and City on the Hill Brighton, and then obviously during COVID, because you are a glutton for punishment, City on the Hill Forestville in 2020. So.
It was not a fun time to plant a church. That's a story for another day. But God has been gracious, and so I've personally benefited from the network. I know you have, and so maybe share kind of two things. One would be what's been the personal benefit for you, and then what have been the ways that we have collaborated together, and how has that been significant?
Yeah, so I think for me, I think back to COVID being the greatest challenge to church planting here. We were out of our space for 18 months, basically, on less than a week's notice, and thinking, a month or two we'd be back maybe. And so the fact that the network pastors were meeting, we're praying for each other, we're really bearing each other's burdens. We were all in it. And I think that there was something that happened in that that really solidified the depth of our relationship, our friendship, our commitment to each other. And so it was both the hardest thing we went through, but I think also really set us up after COVID to really have a very healthy network today. And so I think it's the benefit of brotherhood, the benefit of knowing, reminding our people that we're not alone in the city. There are like-minded, very extremely like-minded churches, right? Literally share the same name that are across the city that are seeking big gospel communities in different neighborhoods. And so, there's the sense that God is doing something. I think that's a great reminder for me personally.
Yeah, and I think about it was such a an embodiment of community when we couldn't be together face to face, because oftentimes in community, there are going to be weeks where you're down and someone else lifts you up, and then it's going to be the opposite next week where
Exactly.
you're doing great and you need to lift them up. There were weeks I would come in just dragging, thinking, man, like coming to this Zoom call going, I don't know, guys, I'm struggling here, and would be encouraged, and then vice versa. So it definitely helped see us through. But I think you're right, really set up the culture of our churches and the culture of our network. And so what are some things that we do together as churches, and like what's been the most significant for you or City of Hill Brookline?
Yeah, so I think being able to do the annual retreat together each fall, that's been amazing up at Camp Spofford the last few years. And then being able to do Good Friday, Good Friday and Christmas Eve together. And then, some various events here and there, softball teams, amen, right? And so those points of touch have been really encouraging to see. I think one sense seeing, I think it was around 450 at the Good Friday service last year, and seeing that was like such a beautiful moment. So many people I didn't know, so I was just reminded of how far this had gone beyond what City of Hill Brookline had sown, right? And God was at work. And so being in that room together was just an amazing blessing. And then I think being on the winter retreat this year or fall retreat this year was a beautiful expression as well. Just getting to see different families and new folks and people just really, it looked like a community, right? Of people, even though there were 4 congregations, people were really connected and in a beautiful way. So I love seeing that.
Yeah, I'm always encouraged by those joint gatherings, and it is like a big family reunion. Everybody comes together, and you see people that you were a part of with another church, and they were then sent out, and it's great to see how people have grown. So you see somebody's kids, and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in 6 months, and they've grown a ton. But there's also a spiritual dynamic to that too, where you look at someone and say, man, like, you've grown so much. God has changed you so much, and that came from you going and being sent to do something else. So
people stepping into leadership roles that you're like, oh, you really weren't a leader.
I wouldn't see that. Yeah, it's so cool to watch how God used that to stretch them, and then it fills the vacuum in at the church that sent them. And so, it's just such an incredible thing. What's been one of the most rewarding aspects of City on a Hill developing into a network of churches?
I think on the one hand for Brookline, it is that generosity of people and resources is it costs, right? It costs something, but it actually is how you grow. It's how you're formed to be like Jesus. And I think as a congregation, it's always hurt to send people out, right? That we love and we care about. It's at times financially being generous. We that's money we can use in other ways. Obviously, we don't have a building or anything, but it is in that act of generosity, in that act of keeping mission front and center in that way through church planting, that it has, I think, kept our church a little more dependent on Jesus, right? Because I think we have a lot of self-reliant people. We're bedroom for the medical area, along with medical areas. So we have a lot of capable people, and they can kind of lean into their own sufficiency. But this kind of giving and generosity has required a leaning into God more. And so as a church, it's really helped us. And then I think it's also helped us because we've realized we cannot effectively be a regional church. That doesn't mean we can't draw people from 2 or 3 or 4 neighborhoods out in any direction. Sure, we could. But we're not going to be effective in reaching those neighborhoods.
Right.
And so it's in some ways it's caused us to double down on Brookline more, and working in our with our local government, working with local government housing and different nonprofits in the community. So it's been it's been a joy to it's carved out our lane, I think, a little clearer, and it's helped us to solidify, this is where we are, this is what we're doing, this is who we are.
Yeah, and that relieves so much pressure too. It's like, I don't have to be everything to everybody. God's given us a specific calling to a place, to a people, to do ministry a certain way. And we often use the illustration of the reason that we need more church plants is that if you were to put one big light in the center of a room, it's actually going to do a pretty poor job of lighting up the entire room. The best way to light the room is smaller lights strategically placed around the room so that every corner of darkness gets lit up.
Exactly.
And so when I think of churches doing that, that's where we're just taking responsibility for our little pocket of the room, and we just be as faithful as we can there. So,
Right. Exactly.
yeah. So what excites you about the future of the City on a Hill network? What do you see ahead for us?
Well, I see each of the congregations becoming more self-sufficient as they grow larger. The congregations are more equipped to be able to think intentionally about church planting, where it's been Brookline up to this point, but where also we can collaborate to church plants, where it's not just one congregation carrying the weight, either financially or for people, but like actually us owning church plants together. That excites me. I'm excited to see actually a bit of the diversity that's happening over time, like congregations taking on the character of their neighborhoods more, and that's been fun to see because we all have our core values in common, but the expression contextualization is so important for long term, health and growth, and so to see Forest Hill's kind of taking on its own flavor, right? And Somerville its own flavor, and Brighton its own flavor. And I think that under each of the pastors and leaders there, it's really been beautiful. I'm excited to see what another 5 years is going to show.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So for those who are newer to our churches or newer to the network, how would you encourage them to engage with the network? What would be some of your advice on that?
Yeah, so I think the network events, Good Friday coming up in a couple of months, 3 months. Be there that night if you're able to. Plan to go on the retreat in October. We always do it the same weekend, and besides being a beautiful location, it's just a really great opportunity to get to know other people across the network. And I think as we grow, we can have more ministries, women's ministries, events, trainings, courses, seminars, that kind of stuff across the network. And that's going to give everyone an opportunity to sort of cross-pollinate, right? Get some opportunities to relate and learn from other City on the Hill churches. So it's only going to get better as time goes on.
And I would encourage you to come play on the softball team in the summer. So if you're from the Brighton Somerville team, come get this smoke from Forest Hills and Brookline.
Yes,
that's all I'm saying. So defending champs. So just come play that. Glenn, any final words of encouragement before we close up?
Yeah, no, I actually, it's funny. I think this podcast is an example of something we don't do in Brookline, but you guys have dove in and started doing for your church and neighborhood and putting out on social media. So I think it's a cool way for you all to be stepping into sort of new technologies and leveraging those, right? For the kingdom.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate you. And honestly, just thank you for your friendship, for your mentorship. Like I wouldn't be here without you as a friend. Our church wouldn't be out here without your church. And so we are the downstream beneficiaries of your faithfulness. And I can't think of a church in Boston that has done more for the kingdom in church planning than City on the Hill Brookline. And so thank you for all that you do. And we really appreciate it.
We're grateful for you guys as well. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, let me send you. Whoa, hold on. Oh, Matt had a thing. Hey, Matt's got a thing.
You're trying to cut me off.
I tried. I apologize. Matt's back.
No, we talk sometimes about current events and things like that, as well as just picking theological topics to discuss. And if you're like me, I'm a bit of a I don't know what the term is. I like to follow political news, and I'm interested in what's happening in the world of politics. Yesterday was a big day. Unless you live under a rock, you would know it was Inauguration Day. President Trump is now officially in office, and so our church is fairly, I think, politically diverse. We have folks who may be excited about that. We have folks who are not so excited. But no matter where you fall on that spectrum, I shared a post yesterday on my personal Instagram that I thought was really helpful when thinking through how, as believers, we interact with things like Inauguration Day. Again, no matter where you fall on that spectrum. And so just as an encouragement to our people, if you're listening, I want to encourage you with these words from David Taylor. He's a theologian who talks a lot about intersections, specifically of faith and arts, but also just faith and culture broadly. And so he has thoughts about politics that I find helpful. So I'm going to share this, and I'll let you send this out with your regular benediction. Again, I just found this really helpful. He said, no Christian should feel wholly at home in any political party. No believer should go through Inauguration Day without feeling some kind of tension in their gut. And no disciple who claims Jesus as Lord should welcome the promises of presidents and prime ministers without reservation. When Jesus says that his kingdom is not of this world, he means it. His kingdom is fundamentally incompatible with all sin-wrapped kingdom governments. His kingdom stands in judgment over all earthly politics, but it also, by God's grace, informs and intersects all our political efforts. How then shall we live? Amongst other ways, without malice towards any, without indifference to the rulers and their governments, without gloating over those who have suffered misfortune. In humility, we cede our wills and our ways to the sovereign Lord. In humility, we submit our most desperate hopes to the one who alone can secure our future. In humility, we release our fears to the God who remains with us in the darkest valley and who shields and supports us. We do justice, we love mercy, and we take God more seriously than we take ourselves, as Eugene Pearson translates Micah 6:8. I just thought that was really helpful. I wanted to share for those of you who are thinking about yesterday and really the next 4 years. It's a helpful way to think about how we should engage in politics and culture as believers, knowing that Jesus is ultimately king and we are citizens of his kingdom first.
Yeah, and that ties really well to our benediction for today from Romans 15:13. We are a people with hope. It says this, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. You guys have a great day.